All right, everybody. Hello and welcome. We are here for your weekly astrological weather. And my name is Amanda Poole Walsh. I'm the founder of Astrology Hub. I'm here with your favorite weather woman, Anne Ortelee, and Remo, the cat.
There he
I
is.
love that.
He comes and hangs out with us when we do the podcast.
He's so cute. Okay.
Our
And
friend.
we're here to help give you practical guidance to not only navigate the cosmic tides, but also thrive with them. So here we are. I know we're in a big week, and last week we started to touch on this week.
Mhm.
So Anne, what's our intensity scale, and tell us what's going on?
It's a ranging one. Again, one of those 20 to 200 kind of guys. But I think for a lot of people, it is, it's really about where you are in your journey, so, how you're reacting. Because part of this is the conjunction that we're going to have with Mars and Uranus. We'll go back a little bit. We go back to January 20th when Saturn and Jupiter met in Aquarius, starting a new 20-year cycle. So we inaugurate the energy. We say, hey guys, you're in that sign. Great, that's cool. And then we watch, it's kind of like it starts, like building a bonfire, right? And then the matches come and light it. So then we watch when they get lit. So a couple weeks ago, we had the new moon, which was at 22, right? So we all know that 22 energy because we've been working with it, but it illuminated and it activated it. And it said, okay, here's the first new moon while these planets are in the sign. And then this week we have Mars, the planet of action, come to Uranus, which is the co-ruler of Aquarius, and he activates it. That happens at 3:30 Eastern time on the 20th. And then the sun, which of course is how we're conscious, the sun goes into Aquarius, 0 Aquarius, and he activates it, right? Because these guys are at 0 Aquarius. So now they're in a new sign. So we have a new moon that says, oh, okay, now we're going to figure out how to work with the new energy. And it's at 22 Capricorn. So it's summing up all the stuff we learned from last year for the beginning of our new 20-year journey. This week we have Mars coming to the co-ruler of these planets, Aquarius, and he says, okay, now we're starting a new 2-year cycle, because Mars takes 2 years to go around until he gets to Uranus again. And then we have, train of thought, then we have the sun going into Aquarius, and he's going to activate them. And then we're still finishing up the Mars retrograde cycle, but Mars, the planet Saturn and Jupiter have shifted. So Mars hit Saturn last week, and then this Saturday coming up, he'll hit Jupiter. And so that kind of wraps everything up. And it says, okay. And, and one of the things, it's so rare to have this many things in the same place, starting new cycles at the same time. And after this, everybody goes, oh, wow, we're through it. And then we start the next chapter, right? We're not through with the journey yet. We still have 2 more years in the United States for our Pluto transit. So we're, US, we still have a whole ways more to go with Pluto, but everybody else is kind of shifting now out of this energy. Everybody else in the world is shifting out of this energy into new chapters. So it's important to watch, again, we do intentions, we do ritual, we do conscious beginning. And the beauty of astrology is it says new beginnings. So if it's a new beginning, take the time to think about, when you're starting to get ready for something, what would you want this to look like? So this is a smaller cycle. It's a 2-year cycle, but it's a 2-year cycle that's directly talking to those planets saying, we're going to do this for the next 20 years. So it's lovely initiating energy after Mars gets there. The moon is in Taurus. It's an exalted moon. It has a very, Taurus moon's one of the best. So Wednesday afternoon, Thursday, Friday, great times to initiate new cycles, new beginnings, new stuff. And it's tied to grounding the ideas that you have in reality. So, and all the work you've done over this last year and a half, getting ready for all these changes, and then all the changes kind of settle down and Mars goes and plows your field. How's your field doing, by the way, Amanda? You have that field in the backyard.
Oh, it's so great that the last Monday, Anne's talking about plowing our own fields. And I had 2 young men in my backyard that day plowing 3 new garden beds.
Mhm.
And I sent Ann a picture and I said, they're plowing my fields, which,
Right.
yes.
Yeah. And
it
so
was
now the field's plowed, so now you get
the
to plant
fields
it.
plowed. So yes, now we need to actually fortify the soil a little bit more, and then we're going to plant. But you would say, let's plant this week.
Yeah. Well, think
Yeah.
about what you're going to buy, But
Okay.
yeah, you're fortifying the field. You're creating it and making it really ready to grow things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is good. So any of you thinking of repotting plants Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, they'll grow big, so yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, it is, but also in metaphor in our life, think about what the Taurus house, where the Taurus house is. So Uranus is there. And really that was our escape hatch all last year when stuff was going a little crazy. We could go to that Uranus house and think of all the new things you learned how to do that were physical, like whether you played games or you did dancing in your living room or you did yoga or you made new friends in groups, because it was Aquarius groups, found Astrology Hub, started studying astrology. Now the Mars is coming to that and going, you want to make it a permanent part of your life? Yes, don't you? And hopefully you all say yes and go, yeah, that was great. I really want to make that part of my life. Because I fiddled around with it last year and I found it nurturing, helpful. It helped me create in a space where I felt maybe a little trapped. And it allows us to break free and begin a new story. So it's good. That part's good. The bad part, of course, is that it's Mars, and he's kind of wired. And we know as he's coming into Taurus, he's not in a sign he necessarily likes, but he's in a sign that's important. Now, of course, we watched when we had the Capitol thing, we watched Mars shift at 5:30, which is when the police people arrived, National Guard, the police, whatever, the reinforcements came in. But now today, I was in my kitchen getting ready for the people coming for breakfast, and they were saying, oh, they're checking the National Guard to make sure they're not Trump people. And I'm like, and then I thought, oh, well, yeah, I guess you do have to kind of pay attention to that. It's like I don't think like that, but obviously other people do. So I'm very grateful that they think like that. But so Mars in Taurus coming up to Uranus, they're aware of, hey, it could be the police that arrived at 5:30 who we thought are the saviors. Maybe they could be a problem. And I'm like, oh, wow, I never thought of that. And so so you want to kind of watch how it hits in your chart. In my case, it hit my third house. It's in my third house. So I didn't think about it, and then you watch what the house is. Now, in my case, that's my brother, right? So I got a text from him this week, what's going on? I'm jumping out of my skin. I'm like, well, you're an early Taurus, you have Uranus on your sun. He said, I'm thinking of going to the high desert and hiking and camping. I'm like, he lives out in Palm Springs, so Jacob's Tree or whatever, there's a big park with all these big rocks. I said, well, go there, but don't climb on those rocks, sit in the car, right? Because Mars and Uranus is a little bit unexpected change. So we'll see. And of course, Mars has a head on him still, because he hasn't finished squaring Jupiter, right? So that's when we get into new territory with him. That's when he finishes the journey he began at the beginning of July, which is why it's important. And we're also going into Mercury Retrograde, which started 2 days ago. We entered the shadow. We're going to Mercury Retrograde all of February. And so it's kind of a lead up. We had Jupiter and...
Wait, Mercury's going retrograde this week, you said?
Yeah, well, no, he's entered his shadow
on
the
shadow.
12th.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, on the 15th, he entered his shadow. So he's going to go retrograde next week. Okay. But he's retrograde most of February. Yeah. And so, but with the shadow brings up, oh, okay, we're going to work on this, how we're going to handle it. And of course, you find out things you didn't know were going on. Like apparently there's no more vaccine in the storage units or something. It's like, oh, I thought we had a vaccine. No, there's none in the unit. Oh, well, Mercury, did you tell us the truth? How are we going to work? It's all reveals. And so the whole year is reveal. And
this year, 2021?
All year. Yeah, it's Uranus Saturn. It's like, I thought that was, oh, you aren't doing that? You're changing that? Yeah, we're changing that. Ooh, did you think to tell me? No, I didn't think to tell you. So that energy of the National Guard could have, well, of course they could, half the country voted for the other guy. So yeah, they could totally, all right. Fine, okay, check them out. You want to kind of go, oh, and then go, okay, I hear you. Let's check it out. Let's pay attention because it's a closing square And it also echoes, in terms the Uranus-Saturn square, we have 3 of them, February, June, December, February 17th. So we're also building up to that. So the Uranus-Saturn square is a closing square, goes back to 88 when the conjunction happened. And it really talks to 99, 2000, when the planets were in the same signs, but reversed. So you think about what you were doing in 99, 2000, and this year you're going to go, that was great, had a good 20 years. Now what with this new 20 years, Saturn, Uranus, what do I want to change? So there's a lot of swirling energy. And remember, all the planets are answering to Saturn, and he's in Aquarius. He's not in Earth anymore. Capricorn, saying, well, those were the structures. We modified, changed them. Now we're going into air. What's your vision for the rest of your life? The next chapter, the next 20 years, the next 29 years, 2 years, 12 years. But these are all new cycles starting again, very uncommon. And we're going to all be really bored after 2021.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you really think that? We're going to be bored.
We're going to be bored.
Okay.
Because all the stuff's going to get into fire and air, and it's going to.
But what about the Pluto?
Well, we're still going to have the Pluto, but that's really the United States. That's not everybody else. That's just
okay.
Us. That we have to do another whole 2 years for. Yeah.
Okay, Anne. When you say every planet in the chart is reporting to Saturn, that's just right now. That's not all the time, right?
That's it's not that common to have everybody reporting to one guy.
Okay.
Usually they have, kind of think about a party, right? These people are talking to these people, or like an office, these people report to this person, these people report. The whole sky is currently organized to point to Saturn in Aquarius, which is the structure of the community. What is the structure of the community? It actually can be fairly cohesive, frankly, because people kind of go, oh, that's what is my Aquarius is a sign of hopes and dreams. What is my sign of hopes and dreams? What are my hopes and dreams? What do I want for Aquarius is a sign of other people's children? What do I want for the children? What do I want to say to my children about what we're doing? Right. And so one of the things I've found fairly humorous is the number of children that are turning their parents in for going to the Capitol a couple weeks ago and saying, you wouldn't let me go to the Black Lives Matter protests, but you went and did this. So it's a really interesting Aquarian rebellion, but it's the rebellion of the children. It's the children saying, hey, how do we want to do this? It's, it's kind of like I'm, what your job is as an astrologer, you guys, everybody listening, to look at what's going on in the world, look at what's happening, and then try and find it in the chart. So right now, with everything reporting into Saturn, it's saying, what is your definition of authority? And one of the best teachers I've found for every parent I know is their kids, because they're all like, oh my God, constantly learning. I remember at one point, my stepbrother, my niece was about 14, and they'd had a very tight bond. They kind of, she was his boy. She was a girl, but she was his boy. And she's 14, she's standing in front of him. And we're up in Rochester for summer or something. And he pats her on the stomach and he goes to her, you're looking a little fat. She's 14, right? She rips him a new one. She just rips him a new one. And he kind of stands there a little shocked and she stomps off. And he looks at me and I go, never raised a 14-year-old before. You don't pat a 14-year-old girl's belly and tell her she's getting a little fat. It's just not what you do. No. But I get it. You're her dad. That was the kind of stuff you could do when she was 8, but she's 14 now. Can't do that anymore. He's like, yeah, hard to raise teenagers. And I'm like, yeah, and so they teach us. I mean, I remember giving my mother books and telling her she should read this book. Mm-hmm. And that's hard. That's once they get to that age, and they teach us. And so they're teaching us. And we're also trying to figure out, how do we explain, what are we going to do for the children? What kind of country do we want for the kids? And that is where most parents will get their game on. Yes. Whether they're your brother's yes. parents fighting for their children, a rather intense force. And there was a great series of books of Dune by Frank Herbert. And one of the things he said was, send the women into war because they will fight for their children but they won't fight for other things. They'll fight to protect themselves and their families, the things they love, but they won't fight just for the sake of fighting. So the militaries were made of women, which I thought was really interesting. And then we saw it in Black Panther, the women were the warriors. So,
and in that, I keep talking about this Viking series, but
yes.
the women they're shield maidens. They're in there with they're right there. It's amazing. But so Anne.
Yeah.
So you're saying Mars, there's action with Mars this week with both Uranus and Jupiter, correct? So it's a Mars square Uranus.
Mars conjunct Uranus.
Conjunct Uranus and square
your cycle, and then square Jupiter, which he's already squared twice in Aries.
Okay.
So
And the Mars
Jupiter in Aries in August, and he squared Jupiter in Aries in October. But now Jupiter's gone into Aquarius, Mars went into Taurus, he's going to square him Taurus air. So he's going to say, okay, those were great ideas when we were fighting about them in August and October. Now let's do something about them. Yeah.
Okay.
That's
and Mars is conjunct Uranus on what day?
Wednesday.
Wednesday the 20th. Okay. And it's square Jupiter on
Saturday.
That's what date is that?
I will look. Mars joins Uranus on the 20th at 3:37 Eastern, and he squares Jupiter on the 23rd at 2:48 a.m.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on Uranus is like sudden, unexpected events, unexpected news. And it can be, because it's Mars, it can be sort of aggressive.
Aggressive, and Uranus is explosions.
Okay.
Aggressive.
And then Jupiter, the square to Jupiter, can you just summarize the energy of that again?
Jupiter's lots of groups, lots of crowds. Mars is lots of fighting with lots of crowds.
Okay. All right. I know everybody's imaginations are going wild right now.
Well, and we do need to pay attention, but it also can be, it can be a good party, So,
mud wrestling party or something.
Totally. Mud wrestling orgy, Amanda. Because it's a group, mud wrestling in a group, There was a place in New York way back called Plato's Retreat. And I actually had a number of friends that went there. And I was like, what was it like? Because it was a naked place, you go get naked and you would kind of roll around, and they had an oil room.
Wow.
I'm like, really? An oil room? Well, you think about oil and, kind of slip sliding around, so yeah, this is mud wrestling. So it's, this is Taurus,
Yes, exactly. Okay.
You ever watch those marine marathons where they crawl through the mud, and they do the obstacle course? Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of like that. Okay.
Yeah, kind of like that.
How do we find, you said how we can find it, but can you repeat how we find where this is affecting us personally in the chart?
7 Taurus. Go look at any planets you have at 7, because that's where it's going to activate 6, 7. And that's the space. And the conjunction takes place in Taurus. So in my case, it was my 3rd house. It was the email. I got a bunch of emails, and it was my brother texting, like I'm jumping out of my skin, and he's my Taurus brother. So.
He's a Taurus. Okay. So 7-degree planets, and what else?
Where your Mars is natally, where your Uranus is natally, because they're going to pull the two. So you're going to find where Mars lives in your chart naturally. So that house is going to come to meet Uranus, and it's going to meet up in the 3rd house. So you know how like they have a meeting, the diplomat comes from here, the diplomat comes from there, and then they meet in another place. So that you look at where they're coming from, because they're bringing the energy from where they're coming. So in my case, my 11th house of groups, my 6th house of work, coming into the 3rd house. So I sent an email out. I mentioned the name of somebody. Everybody wrote and said, what's her name? I'm like, so I called my assistant. She goes, I'll put her link in. Right. So it's 11th house of groups, 6th house of work, connected in. And I had to change the communication in my case. And then my brother texted, so I called him, talked to him for an hour, got in, just knowing it's Uranus. I'm like, all right, my Mars, Uranus, my brother, who is feeling like he wants to run away and join the circus, I should call him and talk to him. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you want to look at where that conjunction takes place. And the Mars-Uranus conjunction takes place at 6:44. And the Mars-Jupiter square takes place at 7:58. So 6-7 in your chart, any planets at those degrees going to be active.
Okay. All right. And what would you say in terms of strategy for people to work with these energies?
I think you want to think about what it is you want to do, right? You know, what actually do you want to do? Because Taurus wants to do something. And sometimes it's, you know, laying on a couch and sleeping, and that's totally fine. But it also is, you may find you're having trouble sleeping because Mars and Uranus are together. So your body is kind of a little extra wired, or you're a little jammed, you know, you're feeling like you're electrically jammed, or you're just anxious because Uranus is anxiety. And Mars is normally, I can breathe it. Well, Taurus, you need to go for a walk. You need to have sex. You need to do something physical with your body. Carefully, because Uranus is there. It's a trip over, you know, you trip over the rug. But it also is physical stuff, because Taurus likes to do physical things. That's how they feel better. And Uranus says unexpected, different things than you normally do. So I said to my brother, no climbing on rocks, because, you know, Mars, Uranus, you can fall off a rock. But, you know, this is when they write these Mars, Uranus conjunctions. You know, I keep track of like the Darwins. Do you remember the Darwin stories where they tell you the guy stuck his head in the elevator to see where it was coming, got his head cut off? This is that kind of aspect. So no dangerous things or things that aren't thought out.
So no, that would be maybe like reactive things, right?
No reactive or no doing something you wouldn't normally do because there's unexpected consequences with it. Okay. So you say do different things than usual, but think it through. Dangerous things, yeah. Yeah. Okay. And you might be something that you don't think of as dangerous because you're doing it because that seems to solve the problem, but it's actually not a great idea. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So we have a scale of 2 to 200. Mm-hmm. And what's going to make it a 200 for someone? If they did something stupid and fell off a cliff. Okay. No, honestly. I mean, you know, it's kind of my dad was kind of cheap. He was in Aries. You always supplemented the tip when you went out to dinner with him because he wouldn't leave enough money. You know, and I was a waitress, so I would always, I would put money down. But at any rate, he was going to save $50 a month to park his boat. He had a little fishing boat. To park his boat in the field is what it cost him. And he hit up one of his friends to park the boat at the friend's house for the winter. Because he was in a condo, you can't park there. So the friend lived up a hill. And my father has his boat on the back of the car. It's been raining. It's a little muddy. And it's the Finger Lakes upstate, which are very hilly. Right? So he rolls the boat up the hill and it gets stuck. So he gets out. Now he's an Aries. He's a big guy. He's 6'4". This was a while back. And he unhooks the boat to kind of straighten it up. Now he's on a hill. Right? Oh. And he unhooks it and then it starts to move. So he runs around and gets on the other side of the boat and it runs him over. And then it goes down the hill and it goes across a highway, which of course it would pull right out, wouldn't look. And then it goes up the hill on the other side because these roads are through then it comes down and it parks in the middle of the road. So he's telling me this story. And my father had an interesting Uranus aspect in his chart. So I'm like, you thought you could stop the boat? You know, and my stepmother, the boat ran him over. I'm like, what idiot unhooks a boat on a hill and lets it run down the hill and then stands in front of it trying to stop it? You know, it's a boat. But he's an Aries with a Leo rising. He thinks he can do anything. So I said, you could have killed somebody with the boat. He said, well, we didn't. I'm like, I know, but you could have. That's a 200. Or your version of that. Because it's kind of like something where you go, what did you think you were doing? And they have a reason. But in but you kind of go, I mean, you started to laugh at the beginning of the story. He unhooked the boat and you went, uh-oh. It's on a hill, right? He goes, well, it was a muddy hill. It was stuck. I'm like, but once you unhook it, it's not stuck anymore. You know, whatever. Yeah. So that's a 200 week. That's an example. You do something.
Think it through. Think it through. Don't
the tendency is to not think it through.
What'd you say?
The tendency is to not think it through.
Right.
Take action that results in something that you go, oh, I didn't think of that.
Right.
So when they said the national, So when they said the National Guard, there could be like one of them that wants to shoot him. I'm like, oh my God, right. I never thought of that, but obviously someone else did. So that's good, you know. So it's, you know, it's what's your skill base. I'm not a military. I'm always kind of very impressed by people that do stuff like that, you know, but I'm not, I don't think like that.
Right.
But I can say to my father, that was really a bonehead move. And remember, Saturn rules all the things in the chart. So Saturn rules bones. So if you say to the person at the end of the story, that's really a bonehead move. And they go, yeah, I know. I kind of did it. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
that's the 200s. Yeah.
That's the 200. So we have a new chapter. This is a 2-year chapter for Mars.
Mars to Uranus. Yep.
In Mars and Uranus, and it's carrying the energy of
the whole summer.
The whole thing since the summer. Okay. So 2020 energy pulled into this 2-year cycle via Mars and Uranus.
You got it.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we have especially new beginnings. So this is right. So this is the time to take some time to ground new ideas into reality.
So you're putting ground in your ground to grow vegetables for 2 years. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Now I love this. Yes. Yeah. This idea of the new things that you started in 2020, all those things that you did to sort of I don't want to say cope, but also places where you were pulled into new arena. This is a time to decide, do you want to make those new things a part of your life? One of the things my love is getting me a telescope for my birthday, which I'm so excited about. But for me, that feels like going.
And that's Amanda's birthday. So everybody, today's her solar return, tomorrow's her birthday. Everybody send her a happy birthday note because she does this every week.
So we have the new storytelling show with Gemini Brett, which is about like getting out under the sky and looking at the stars and hearing the stories of the constellations and all those good things. And so this telescope for me feels like going even deeper into this commitment and love for astrology and getting even more intimate. So making new things even more a part of your life if you enjoyed them.
If you enjoyed them, it would have come in starting in March of 19, kind of as a little whisper. And now it's like, you want to commit to it? And you may say, no, but that was fun, but I learned stuff. Or you may say, yeah, that was really great. I want to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We have a week of unexpected change. We have Mercury in its shadow. And sometimes when Mercury retrograde is in the shadow, we even feel it more, right? Than when it's actually.
We get what the story is going to really be when it comes. When it's, it kind of says, oh, we're going to talk about this. And you go, oh, okay. And remember, he's hanging out with all this in the Aquarius house. So he's going to talk about those things. And he's very smart. He's in Aquarius, which is one of his smart signs. He's just detached. He's also very, what's the right word for it? He's very observant. So there was a great thing on Rachel Maddow with a new representative who is a helicopter pilot, Aquarian. And she was like, she was deployed. She was in the military for 10 years. She said, I was deployed to look at things that were unusual. When I landed, her name's Mikey something. She lives in New Jersey. She's out of New Jersey. But if you Google Rachel Maddow Mikey, it'll pop. But she said, I was taught to look at things that were unusual and examine them, because you're military, you're taught to pay attention to stuff. And she observed some stuff around the Capitol invasion. So she was reporting it to them. And I thought, oh, that's a good example of, she's Mercury in Aquarius. She's a helicopter person. Aquarius is helicopters because they're weird things that fly, right? They look weird. I mean, you look at it and go, how does that fly? But it's a helicopter. Helicopters are ruled by Aquarius. So she, as a woman, new freshman congresswoman, reporting, and she did it on the Mercury going into its shadow. So I was paying attention for news, and she fit the bill, and she got a bunch of people to sign a thing and say, hey, check this out. Who brought the people in and gave them tours the day before the riots? So we'll be hearing that story as Mercury goes through its retrograde. While they retrograde, they investigate, so it's, but in your life, think of what happened. So I got an email from somebody asking me to do something. And I kind of went, I think she's the one. Let me think about this, so you want to kind of look at, the incoming and then decide in the retrograde what you want to do with it. Because remember, Mercury's reporting to Saturn too, but he's in Aquarius and he is very clear. He is rising before the sun. He's about to stop and go back towards retrograde. So, we know he's paying attention to a lot of stuff.
Okay.
So pay attention to what you hear, because Mercury in Aquarius has no reason not to tell the truth. He just says, this is what I saw. And then you go, okay, what'd you see? And he tells you, right? And so you want to kind of watch for that kind of stuff.
One of the ways that Gemini Brett is encouraging us he's giving us scavenger hunts every week. So instead of scavenger hunt, we have a scavenger hunt. And one of the things he's having us do is look at Mercury at the horizon every night, because we can actually see it right now. Every night, like close to where the sun sets, then you just wait until it's dark enough and you should be able to see Mercury there. And one of the ways that we can work with Mercury during this retrograde is to actually connect visibly and communicate and ask. So these things that you're bringing up, we can start to ask the questions. What is the storyline that I should be paying attention to? And if you can't see it, which there's been this like thick band of clouds for me all week, exactly where I'm supposed to be looking at Mercury and Jupiter. I'm like, this is perfect. But I've just been doing it in my head. I've just been imagining that they're there because I can't see them, but I've been imagining and then doing the dialogue. And it's fascinating to do it that way. Just as powerful, I think. Okay.
Well, and I think when we do, star bright, starlight, first star I see tonight, it's either usually Mercury or Venus that shows up. Yeah. So it's Mercury right now, you're going to really see him. And remember, think about where he is relative to the sun. The sun has gone ahead and Mercury's there going, and I'm going to report on things. I'm going to tell you things. And Venus, of course, is in Capricorn. So she's kind of, she's ahead of the sun. And oh, nice. But Mercury's in Aquarius says, let's just look at the data. Let's just look at it. Let's analyze it. Because Mercury in Aquarius wants to analyze stuff. So you're going to find you're going to be questioning more because the sun has gone away and Mercury's there going, so what do you think about it? And you're going to be in that questioning mode. Now, when he's joined with the sun, I believe what the sun says. I believe what the sun said. Whatever the sun is, I believe it. But now that he's got some distance, he goes, so do you still believe it? And so think about the things in your life that you were very intense about. And now that you've got a little space, a little air, because Mercury's in air, a little distance. When he follows the sun, he reports in, right? So that's his gig. So I have Mercury following the sun. So I have a Virgo sun, my Mercury's in Libra. It says, well, this is what it looks like, but did you ever think Libra about this or this? Give you other options of how to think about it. So when he's in Aquarius following an Earth sun, he says, well, you thought that was reality. Now Aquarius says, let's look at multiple versions of reality, because there can be simultaneous versions of reality that exist. I think that's important for people. It's not to judge it, but to understand. Mercury now is going to say to you, well, ask some questions. Yeah. Understand it. Get a big picture. Yeah. The details are there, but get the big picture. Yeah. So, and that's important for all of us. You're all having that conversation from Mercury somewhere in your chart, and Mercury is talking to Uranus, right? So Uranus and Mercury are having this aha moment around Mercury issues. What did you hear? What did you say? What's the truth? What's the picture? What's the group? What's the idea? Separating from Saturn, do you still believe it? And why? Tell me why.
And
Not me, but tell me why. Yeah.
it's okay for us to change our mind.
It is.
It's so hard, I think, for us to be like, I thought that, but now I have new information, new data, new perspective, and I'm starting to shift a little bit. And that's okay. That doesn't mean you're bad, or, like, I think there's so much tied to that for humans.
It's not a judgment. It's an
Yeah.
assessment. Yeah. Mercury
Exactly.
is an assessment, and it assesses it and it looks at it and goes, so now what do I think about it? Remember, Mercury can be in 3 positions. He's only ever 28 degrees from the sun. He can be in the sign before the sun, where he says, the sun is coming, get ready, get ready, get ready. So when I had my corporate career and the president was coming through the building, it was AIG at one point, and they'd come in, the president's gonna come, he's gonna come, you have to clean your stuff, you had to clean your cubicle, you had to clean the papers off the files, you had to throw away the dead plants that nobody watered. I mean, if the place was clean, he walked through for 5 minutes and he left, and like 2 football fields of office had been cleared, and he didn't go to any of them. But I think they did it they rolled the dumpsters, and I think they just did it. He walked on the floor once a month, once every 6 months for you to throw your shit out, But it was, okay, he's coming. When it's combust, that's the bodyguards. That's the bodyguards. Mm-hmm. He's right with you, hanging out with you. So there was a picture of one of the Obama kids pictured, and she would look really good, but there was this old guy hanging out behind her, and somebody that's an old lech. I'm like, that's the Secret Service, like it's an old guy following her. Of course, he's following her because he's her Secret Service agent. It's a bodyguard. Mercury's a bodyguard to the sun. And now the sun is Mercury's behind the sun, a different sign, because he can only be the sign before the sign of the sign after. And now he's saying, so what do you think? The king came through. And I'm like, really effective way for cleaning up the office. Everybody threw their stuff away. All those piles of computer listings, because back then you had those dot matrix printers with huge piles. They're all gone. Everybody threw it away.
Nice.
You should do this once every 6 months or so. And then notice every 6 months the guy came, he's coming to the floor and,
Oh my gosh, it's so great.
Pretty fun.
All right. So we have also a week where we're going to be finding out things that are going on, a year of revelation. You didn't just say a week, but a year of revelation. Okay. So lots of things revealed, lots of new data coming in that might shift our perspective on what's actually happening, what actually happened, etc. Right? Mm-hmm. Okay. This is a time to be thinking about what is the structure of your community. Yes. So what is the structure? How do you want to contribute to it? We've been talking about this a lot. How are you contributing your unique talents and gifts to that community structure?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. To see where this is affecting your chart, look at any planets you have around 7 degrees.
6 and 7. Mm-hmm.
6 and 7. And then also where Mars and Uranus are natally.
Yes, because they're meeting up.
Uh-huh.
And then look at the Taurus house, because that's where the conjunction happens at 6 degrees Taurus.
Okay.
So my 3rd house and my sibling.
I know sometimes we look at these things and we go, okay, I have the information. I know the houses. I know which planets. Now what? Like, what does it actually mean? So,
right. It means, so it means that when the whole point of your chart is your natal potential, right? What's your potential? And as the planets move around, they help you realize your potential. So when they get married, like they're doing now, they're saying, well, Uranus is over there and Mars is over there, and now we're getting together. And ooh, what are we going to do? Because it's kind of like when you meet up with a friend you haven't seen in a while. And the friend says, I've been over here doing this. And this guy goes, I've been over here doing this. And then they're meeting. And now they're bringing those 2 energies together to do something with them. Right?
Okay, so these energies are coming together for you to do something with it. And
Mars is the do something, Uranus is the change.
Right. And it might, if you're not super skilled at chart reading yet, and you're just learning the energies and what they mean, sometimes it's just good to ask an open-ended question. Okay, I see where it's all happening. What does it mean? And just walk with that question. You also can start to go deeper. We do have level 2 of Astrology Foundations open now with Rick Levine. It's open for enrollment yet. So if you missed level 1, you have time to catch up before level 2 starts on February 12th. So if you're interested in checking that out, it's for beginners and intermediate and advanced. Everybody is going to get something from this both levels. And when you sign up for level 2, you get 10% off level 1. So if you're interested and you're like, I want to know, like, I want to start to understand this language even more fully, you go to astrologyhub.com/foundations2, the number foundations2. And I know the question is going to come. When do we get to learn from Anne? We want to learn more from Anne.
Well, Amanda and I have talked about it, but we've been running around. But hopefully now that Mars and Uranus are meeting up, we're going to come up with a plan, because we've been doing that kind of stuff.
Yes.
So now that we're getting married, right?
Yes, we're getting married. Yes. Okay. You might feel electrically jammed this week. So that, like, even this happened all last week. I would lay down to try and take a 20-minute nap. Not one time did I fall asleep, when normally I can like fall asleep fairly easily, but I was just too wired. Yeah. So you might feel electrically jammed. Do something physical with your body. Mm-hmm. So do something that will move the energy for you in a physical way. This is a good time to do that, but not too dangerous.
Not anything I haven't done before. So don't decide to learn how to rollerblade today.
Right. Don't start kite surfing this week. Right. Okay. No dangerous or reactive things. So again, these are the times where it's even more important to prioritize things like breath work, things that keep you as calm in your nervous system as possible, so you're less likely to knee-jerk react to stimulus and things happening around you, right? This is a time where we will be getting new data and potentially seeing multiple versions of reality.
Yes.
Okay. Well,
remember, they can all exist simultaneously.
Right.
There can be multiple versions of reality. It doesn't make this version of reality doesn't make that version wrong.
Yes.
It's the layering. Aquarius is very much about the layers.
Mm-hmm.
I also think of it as the rings. When you talk to Aquarians a lot of times, and you're an Aquarius rising like I am, and Remo is very active right now. What happens with Aquarius is they have rings of people. So you have like the inner ring and then the middle ring, and you kind of, Aquarius is a sign of groups, but they kind of put people in groups. And I know in my case, people move in on the group or they move out on the group, depending on, what I'm doing. But that ring concept of structure, because Aquarian is a structured sign, it answers to Saturn, and of course he has rings. So what you're doing, you're structuring your reality about how you want to take action, Mars, and you're looking at the structure of your stuff to see, what's in the closer ring, the next ring out, the next ring out, the next ring out, and how do I work with it? Everybody's in the mood to fight. I'm aware of about 5 fights going on around me. Mm-hmm. Trying not to do it myself.
Yeah.
But, people going, well, I want you on my side. I'm like, all right, I'm on your side. I agree. And then they asked, and they went, I'm on your side. I agree. I agree with your point there and your point there. Because that's the nature of the energy. Polarization.
Well, that's you saying multiple realities at the same time. Both can be right.
Both can be right. Yeah.
And both can be real.
Both can be right. Both can be real. It's not either or. I don't have to kill you because I don't agree with you. Mm-hmm. I just have to try and understand where you're coming from. Mm-hmm. And when I do that, I remember going to a lecture with the Dalai Lama, and he said, in his very cute voice, he goes, so, everybody talks about world peace. The way we get it is we go talk to the person you're not talking to. That's how it starts. And everybody went, ooh, yeah, okay. No, I want world peace, but I don't want to stop fighting with that one. Because you know what? So it's like.
Well, and then I've heard from a lot of people in our community, because I think this community is potentially at times we go the other way, where it's actually a little bit more about creating boundaries and not always having to go to the other side. So, there's definitely a balance and a dance. It's not one way all the time, but it's a very interesting exploration no matter what. One of our inner circle soul work assignments was to practice being comfortable in discomfort, which I've come to the conclusion, and I'm still mid-experiment, that you kind of can't be comfortable in discomfort. That actually just makes it not it makes it comfortable. But you can be relaxed. You can be curious. You can be aware. You can ask, you can start to move the energy and work with the energy. So this is a time where it's really good to be doing that inner exploration of like, wow, what does this bring up in me? How does this make me want to fight? How does this make me want to react? How does this make me want to do something dangerous? What is that? Can I get curious about it? Can I actually work with and move that energy with my breath, with my awareness? And there's so many tools, there's so many ways to do this, but sounds like this week we'll have a lot of opportunities to practice.
I would encourage you to all go to Pandora and play the Brazilian music channel. Nice. You can't be mad during a bossa nova. And
all right, Pandora, Brazilian music channel. We will all be dancing and thinking of you, Anne.
But because part of it is that, how are we, that rhythm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
the passion's good. I mean, that passion that we feel, we're alive. It's good. It's not like we have to squash all that, but how are we working with it? How are we channeling it? How are we directing it? Those are the big questions.
How are we taking it to, because we can turn and fight with each other, or we can find where we agree and then go forward with that place.
Yes.
And that, I think, is, well, where do you agree? Where do you agree this is something that can happen? And in that space, you can move forward, or you may just say, Mars Uranus is, I'm going to leave and go do my own thing. It's like, all right, you need to leave, go do your own thing. We're not going to say don't. We're going to say goodbye. Thank you so much for joining, because Mars Uranus does have a rupturing energy. And that's okay, because, remember, new beginnings imply an ending of something. So Mars is ending his journey that he last made to Taurus 2 years ago, Uranus and Taurus 2 years ago. And now he's starting another one. And so now we're beginning, every time Mars hits Uranus, he starts a new 2-year cycle of how do we take action to change things. And he begins this, and it takes about 6 months till you see a result of action taken, and then kind of go forward. So in my case, I've done now 3 months without pasta.
Yay.
Cooking it. I always clarify, I'm a Virgo, I clarify. I sometimes eat it because it's, like I ordered chicken marsala and there's pasta or salad, and, I'll go with it. But there's not any open in New York, right? No restaurants in New York. So now my Mars Uranus and Taurus goes, okay, so now you're not going to order it either. I'm like, all right, I can do that for 2 years. So, all right. It's incremental change over time too. We don't have to do everything dramatically and big. Yeah. It doesn't have to be big, just has to be a change.
Well, Taurus would be slow and steady, right?
Slow and steady, right.
Yeah. All right. Anne, thank you so much for this weekly weather. For those of you who are interested in getting our free 2021 guidebook to help you take even more of these energies, and there's practical tools and tips for working with it, you can download it at astrologyhub.com/guidebook. That's free. It's available. There's like 12 or 13, or maybe even 14, because you and Rick are in there too. Different astrologers' perspectives on what the energies will be, and how to work with them, most importantly. And yes, Rick Levine's level 2 is now open for enrollment. This is Astrology Foundations. If you love Rick and you love his way of doing astrology, you love the history, you love the poetry, you love the foundation that he has, the classes are so good, you guys. They're so good. They're so amazing. And last week, on the Cosmic Connection, we did a whole segment on the planetary glyphs and why the symbols are what they are. It's coming to life on a whole nother level. It's amazing. So check that out. I finally can look at all of them and know exactly what they are right away, because now I know why. Until I know why something is that way, it's hard for me to remember it. But now I know why Jupiter has the crescent and the cross, and why Mercury has a little crescent with the circle and this cross. And it all makes
almost all of them except for Mars has a cross in them.
Exactly. All that so fascinating.
Mars, because Mars doesn't conform to anything.
Right. Well, but yes, anyways, so it's all very fascinating. So you can check that out. That's Cosmic Connection. Then we started storytelling last week, which is for any of you interested in the sky and the stories around astrology. That's with Gemini Brett. Anna's been doing the Seeds of Light for the parents and children. So we're building out our show repertoire, and we're niching it too. So for those of you who are like, oh, I'm a parent, I'm really interested in that Seeds of Light, or, oh, wow, I've always been fascinated by the night sky, I really want to know more. We're creating different kinds of shows for all the different interest types, of course, all around astrology. So check those out, see if you like them, and can't wait to be with you all again next week. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being a part of our community. Thank you, as always, for making astrology a part of your life. We'll catch you on the next episode.
Bye.